A worker in Tamil Nadu straps a camera to his head, walks into a factory, and starts folding clothes. He is not making a YouTube video, and he's not filming a vlog. Instead, he is recording every movement his hands make, every fold, every adjustment, every small correction, so that a robot somewhere can watch it and learn to do the same thing. That is strange enough on its own, but the real story is not the camera. It is what happens to the footage after the shift ends, who profits from it, and what it means for the people wearing it. This is the story of India and the AI that most people are not being told. Here is how it works. AI does not learn by magic. If you want a machine to fold a shirt, cook a meal, or pick up a box from a shelf, you need thousands of hours of footage showing a real human doing the exact same thing. That footage, first person recording of real tasks, captured through cameras on workers' head, is what the AI industry calls the ego-centric data. Every hand movement becomes a data point, every repeated motion becomes a lesson, and companies like Objectways, operating out of Coimbatore and Chennai, with over 2,000 employees, are building an entire industry around collecting it. The workers are in India, but the robots being trained are not. From homemakers in Chennai filming themselves cooking, to a textile workers in Tamil Nadu recording their shifts, to warehouse staff sorting inventory, India has become world's largest film set for AI training. Except, the workers are not the stars, they are the raw material. This is not the first time India has done this. 30 years ago, it was call centers. Global companies needed people to answer calls in the middle of the night, and India became the back office of the world. Now, the work looks different. Instead of answering phones, workers are filming real physical tasks so machines can learn how to do them. But the pattern feels familiar. India does all the labor, but someone else builds the product, and someone else makes the bigger money. But this time, the risk is bigger too. A call center, for example, still needs a person at the end of the line, but a trained robot on this footage may not. The real question hanging over this whole story is, are these workers doing a new kind of job, or are they helping train the machines that could one day take it all away? The worker earns 250 rupees an hour, just about $3. Now look at the other end of the chain. The company collecting that footage from the worker, Objectways, has offices both in India and the US and works with Fortune 500 clients. Then there is Scale AI, one of the biggest names in AI data. In 2025, it was valued at $29 billion and made $2 billion in revenue in a single year. But who is doing a lot of the work behind that system? Tens of thousands of contract workers in countries like India, the Philippines, Kenya, and Nigeria, often earning between $3 and $7 an hour on platforms like Remotask. So, this is the gap. A worker in Tamil Nadu earns a few dollars an hour to record a real job. And somewhere up in the chain, that same data becomes part of $1 billion AI business. The chain looks like this. A worker in Tamil Nadu records a shift, a startup in Coimbatore packages that footage, a company in San Francisco sells it as training data, and an AI lab in Silicon Valley uses it to build machines that may one day do the same job without that worker. Now, here's the part that makes it really uncomfortable. This is not some future warning. Parts of it are already here. TCS, India's biggest IT company, cut 23,000 employees in a single financial year. And these cuts were not random. They were largely the kind of repetitive, process-driven roles that AI is already getting better at doing it faster and cheaper. So when people say that AI economy will create new jobs in India, there is the real question hiding underneath that promise. Will those jobs be about building AI, or will they be mostly about feeding it? Because look at the ladder right now. A software engineer might earn 50,000 rupees a month, a data annotator earns 250 rupees an hour, and a factory worker around the same 250 rupees mark. That is not a clear step forward. It is starting to look like a lower value work wrapped in the language of the future. Let's take a step back, and a strange picture starts to appear. India is telling two very different AI stories at the same time. In one story, India wants to build its own AI future. You have homegrown models like Sarvam AI, Gyani AI, and Bharat Gen. You have government plans, big funding promises, and the language of an AI superpower. In the other story, a woman in Chennai straps a camera to her head and films her ironing clothes for a few dollars an hour. That footage is then sent across the world to help train machines somewhere else. Both of these stories are real, both of them happening right now, and both of them are happening in the same country. One India is trying to build the future, the other is helping build someone else's. So the next time you see a worker with a camera strapped to their head, do not focus on the camera, focus on the chain behind it. Look at who's paying for the footage, look at who's packaging it, and look at who's selling it. Then look at who may be left behind once the machine has learned enough. Because this is not some strange side of story from the world of tech. This is what the early AI economy actually looks like. And India is not standing outside it, watching from a distance. India is already inside it, doing the work, supplying the data, and taking the smallest share of the reward. This is the real question this story leaves behind. Will India use this moment to build and own a meaningful part of the future? Or will it once again do the labor while someone else owns what comes next? If this made you think, subscribe and tell me in the comments, is India building its AI future or just helping build it for someone else?